Hi, I'm Travisdeste, and this is my review for the game Snake Pass, released for the Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and Windows. I played it on my computer with a PS3 controller, just to be clear on what kind of experience I had with it. So let's get into it and start talking about the game. I'll start the review prefacing that I did not go out of my way to get all the collectibles possible, especially since it's not even clear if you'll get anything out of it aside from I got all the collectibles in Snake Pass medal. But I still tried to get the most I could get my hands on, especially the blue orbs. Next, some technicalities. For some reason, despite having a pretty powerful computer, the game would dip to around 50 or 40 FPS, especially when going in and out of bodies of water. I think this is caused by the animation of the splash of water, but it's still really weird for it to happen. I mean, I can run GTA 5 on the highest settings without ever dropping frames, and Snake Pass makes my system struggle. Despite this, it wasn't a deal breaker, especially since it didn't get in the way of playing or make me lose any progress. It's just a little annoying to not have a steady 60 FPS. Now, right off the bat, I want to say that I hate unskippable cutscenes. In this day and age, unskippable cutscenes should not be a thing. It gets pretty annoying when you're playing a level multiple times to try and get all the collectibles. It's not that terrible since not that many levels have cutscenes in them, but still it can be annoying and all the cutscenes should be skippable in all games. Like, what's so hard to just give you the option to skip them? So, this little grip aside, the game is structured with 4 worlds, each made up by 4 levels, aside from the last one which only has 3 for a total of 15 levels. Despite having only 15 levels though, some of them get pretty long, especially the last ones. They also get increasingly difficult, which in turn makes you lose more often and therefore take more time to complete. In the end, it took me around 5 hours to complete the game, which is not that bad, considering how fun the game is in those hours and that you can get it for around $10 when it's on sale. Also, once you complete each world, you unlock a time attack mode or something like that, basically playing the level faster than you did before. Not my thing for this game, so I didn't even try it, but it's there nonetheless. And even more than that, it seems like they just updated the game as I am writing this review, adding another game mode, but once again, I won't be playing. Here, I'm simply reviewing the base game. Every world is themed after one of the 4 elements, even though they don't play that big of a part in the mechanics. For example, the Earth world doesn't really have Earth, aside from the fact of being on the Earth. Water levels have sections where you can move in the water, but they're not really that interesting since it's not implemented in an interesting way in my opinion. You can't really do anything special while underwater. There's some hidden collectibles, but that's about it. The same verticality they achieved with this mechanic could have been achieved with simple poles and walls. I'm really not that into the way they implemented water, and even more so since I get FPS dips every time I'd get near a pool. In the fire world, there are some hot coals where you constantly lose health while standing on them, but it doesn't really matter if they're there or not since you're probably gonna die anyway once you fall on them, so a bottomless pit or some spikes could have been there instead and not much would have changed. And lastly, gusts of wind are a mechanic that I think is pretty useless, since by pressing a button, you get directly transported to the only place you can be taken to. They could have simply put some ground as a way to get there. The only time it's used cleverly is in this level, where you have to actually press the button halfway to get dropped on the secret platform to collect a gold token. The better ones are when the wind is actually pushing you, and you have to move accordingly as to not get pushed off the edge. Now let's talk about the controls. This is not a typical platformer like you may be used to. Moving the joystick around doesn't move Noodle, your character. Rather, it simply shifts the direction in which his head is facing, and by pressing the right trigger, you actually move Noodle's whole body in the direction he's facing. The game has a system which allows Noodle to move only if his body is touching something, like the ground or poles or anything really. As long as he's not floating through the air, the more his body is on a solid ground, the more grip he has. This is to avoid players getting to a high advantage point and just flying through the levels. And that's also in tune with the fact that you're controlling a snake, so it only makes sense that you be constantly touching something to have a solid ground to slither on. An example to demonstrate how the mechanic works is this. Say that you need to get from one horizontal pole to another. It is possible to just try to literally get over both of them, but the most secure way to do so is to curl up around the first one and then try to reach out for the next one, as all the grip you have will make it so you won't slip and fall from the first one. It's pretty hard to master. In all of this, you do have a couple of helping hands though. By pressing a button, you can get your bird companion to hold your tail high up, which can be helpful in some situations, but also make it harder to maneuver in some others. So you actually have to pay attention as it is not just an easy mode to turn on and forget about. The other helping hand is that by holding the left trigger down, Noodle will actually tighten his grip to whatever he's curled up on, making it harder to slip and fall from it. Again, this is not a "you won't fall while holding tight" button. If you are in an uncomfortable position, the grip won't last long, and you might even lose it and fall to your death. Another example of how movement works. At the beginning of the game, you're taught that to get the most speed out of your movement, you have to slither by changing direction left and right repeatedly on your joystick, just like a snake would, which can be kinda awkward at first, but once you've mastered it, it feels so good to slither all around at max speed. Something to mention regarding the top speed slither though, is that even once you've mastered it, you might feel like it's only ever useful when you need to go straight, but it actually works even in tight spaces and the like. I mean, at least I think so. There have been times when I couldn't get as fast as I would have liked to, but I'm not sure if it was my fault for not doing it correctly or was just not having the space to do so. Some other times I was going kinda fast, but I wasn't sure just how fast, because there's no way to objectively tell what your speed is aside from just looking if you're going fast. It's still so satisfying to get a grip on the controls and be able to slither up through poles and walls when just a few hours ago you were struggling with the same thing. This is something that I appreciate a lot in video games. For years, we've seen so many games reward players with upgrades and power-ups that make your character stronger or just unlock more abilities, which make you feel cool because you're doing all these cool things. But in the end, it's not really that rewarding, because it's not you as a player who's using his hard-to-learn abilities to get through it all. The game is simply making it easier for you to go through with it by giving you a wider arsenal at your disposal. In games like Snake Pass, you have all your abilities from the moment you pick up the controller, and the only way to get better at the game is to master the basic mechanics. There's no power-up to make you climb faster or anything like that. It's all you, which in the end, as I said before, is what gives you that feeling of accomplishment from completing the game, knowing it was you who did it all and not some kind of upgrade to your abilities. A cool way to show you progress with the game and your abilities to complete it is in level 5 for example, where by the end of the level you can see all the way to the beginning of it and visually see how far you've come. This is nothing new though. It's not like Snake Pass came and blessed us all with this new way of developing a video game. Actually, it's something that Nintendo has done for so many years, and for good reason. What they do is basically every time they implement a new mechanic in a level, the player is put in a state where it is natural to overcome a challenge by using said mechanic, usually in a safe environment, and often without even a tutorial. It's all shown rather than told. The easiest example of this is the level 1-1 of Super Mario Bros. A Goomba is sent your way with nothing explicitly telling you what to do. But from the way the level is constructed, most people's reaction is to just jump on top of it, therefore killing it and learning that by doing so you can kill all future enemies. In the case the player doesn't go through with it and touches the Goomba, they'll die and learn to try a new approach. Once again, this is all shown rather than told. Once the player has learned the mechanic, they can ramp up the challenge throughout the level or levels, making it harder and harder as they go, letting them become more skilled and overcome the challenges by themselves. Snake Pass makes good use of this tried and true technique to teach players new mechanics, mostly the testing you in a safe environment and making the challenge harder and harder as you go along part. I'm not bashing Snake Pass for copying Nintendo. It's a clever way to teach your mechanics without underwhelming the player, and there's no reason to make it harder for yourself as a developer. I mean, it's not even like Nintendo invented it in the first place, but regardless, it's easier to explain it with something most people are familiar with. Moving on to the music, it's not anything special sadly. It's good at setting the atmosphere for the game and it conveys it very well, but I thought that after a while it got kind of repetitive, especially in the first world. But that may just be me. I really like this little synth in the world too though. I also like the almost dubsteppy vibe the Fireworld's music had. Something I don't understand with the game though, is that there are many poles that lead to nothing, or areas that seem like they might be holding a secret, but no. It's just a dead end and you wasted your time. Now, I'm not saying that they should block off all paths but the main one, or to put collectibles everywhere. It's just that it feels like you're being cheated a little, like going out of your way trying to reach a difficult spot just to find nothing there. Even more so when the game is explicitly telling you, in one of its loading screens, to try and explore every nook and cranny for hidden secrets. I especially don't understand the leading to nowhere poles. You feel like they're leading to somewhere, but no, they're just there. Why are they there? And another thing that bugged me while playing is that bird. I don't know why, but sometimes he would just sit in front of the camera for no reason and make it harder to see what I was doing. One time, I even tried to move the camera away from him, but he moved with the camera. Is this a feature? Did the developers do this to fuck with me? Anyways, since I'm talking about that bird, here's the thought. In the narrative of the game, you need to find up to 3 stones in each level and bring them back to the portal to activate it and progress to the next level. Okay, that's cool, but every time you get one, it's the bird who actually takes it with him and then lay it onto the portal. So my question is, why can't the bird just do all the work himself? He's a bird, he can fly, and all this would be much easier for him. I know there would be no game to play then, this is just a joke, but couldn't they make it so that you're the one carrying it? Not important. I felt like talking about the very, very vital narrative of Snake Pass. Actually, now that I started talking about the narrative, let me just say that it's not anything great. I mean, you just collect stones because the world is apparently ruined somehow, and at the end of every few levels you kinda see a character being all evil, but by the end it doesn't come to much. I don't really care for it since there's no reason to play the game for its story, but I felt like I should address it still. The game has no real story, but it doesn't matter, because that's not what the game's about, and that's okay. Okay, so those are my points. To end this review, I'll say that I really enjoyed the game. It was a lot of fun. Refreshing to have a platformer with a unique quirk about its movement, and really well done. I didn't talk about the graphics, but there's not much to say. They're really good. They have a good art style for what they're trying to achieve. I like how they managed to make Noodles so expressive, despite being a snake. I hope you enjoyed my first review. I put a lot of work into it, and I hope it's not too bad, be my first and all. For anyone who's still watching, please tell me if you like this kind of videos, or if I should just stick to making music ones. Also let me know if you think I've missed anything from the game or anything like that, I'd appreciate it. And maybe tell me if you agree or disagree on some of the points I made, if you play the game of course. That's it. Bye!